Welcome to Bosco Campus Vision. You are watching the campus television channel of Don Bosco College, Kottayam. This lecture is on the prescribed syllabus of 3rd semester MA English Literature and Language. And the paper is Linguistics and Structure of English Language. In this lecture, I am going to deal with prescriptive grammar versus descriptive grammar. There are two different ways that language has been talked about in disciplines that focus on the use of language. We can talk about these different approaches to language as prescriptive grammar versus descriptive grammar. Prescriptive grammar refers to a set of norms governing how sentences should or should not be formed rather than describing how language is really used. It describes when people focus on talking about how a language should or ought to be used. One way to remember this association is to think of going to a doctor's office. When a doctor gives you a prescription for medication, it often includes directions about how you should take your medication as well as what you should not do when taking your medication. In a similar way, a prescriptive grammar tells you how you should speak and what type of language to avoid. This is commonly found in English classes as well as other language classes, where the aim is to teach people how to use language in a very particular way, that is described as proper or correct way. Therefore, we can say that prescriptive grammar explains or rather prescribes rules on how a language should or ought to be used by the speakers. As a result, prescriptive grammar consists of a set of rules that teach the speaker the most accurate and the correct manner to use the language, highlighting what should be used and what should be avoided, so that he can achieve that certain grammar and the language standard. Now, prescriptive grammar is contrasted with descriptive grammar. So let's see what you mean by descriptive grammar. Descriptive grammar focuses on describing the language as it is actually used, not as it should be used. It is based on the language used by its speakers. Descriptive grammar focuses on describing the manner how either native or non-native speakers use the language on a daily basis. Therefore, it includes a set of rules about language based on how it is actually used, not how it should be used. Linguists often follow this approach to grammar, where they can study the rules and patterns that underlie the speaker's use of words and sentences. Since this approach basically focuses on identifying and explaining the varied use of the language according to the user, this grammar discipline does not explain what is correct and what is incorrect. In other words, one can also describe this grammar approach as an objective description of grammatical constructions of the language. Let's see an example of a form that prescriptive grammarians believe to be wrong. For example, Samuel is older than her. Although the above form is used by actual speakers, prescriptive grammar considers it an example of bad language, contending that the right form should be like this: Samuel is older than she. Prescriptive grammarians believe that the word than is used as a conjunction that should be followed by a subject pronoun. The correct form according to this approach should be he is older than she is. However, according to descriptive grammar, since the above form is used by actual language speakers and writers, it should be included in the data and studied. The word than in this analysis is viewed as a preposition, and for that reason it can be argued that the sentence Samuel is older than her is also correct, and that her in this case functions as the object of the preposition. Descriptive grammar describes language forms objectively and non-judgmentally. The aim is to study the principles and patterns that underlie the actual language use. Now let's understand the difference between prescriptive grammar and descriptive grammar. Prescriptive grammar is an approach to grammar that is concerned with establishing norms of correct and incorrect usage and formulating rules based on these norms to be followed by the users of the language. Descriptive grammar, on the other hand, is an approach to grammar that is concerned with describing the usage of language by native or non-native speakers without reference to proposed norms of correctness or advocacy of rules based on such norms. Next is prescriptive grammar takes the principle that the long existed grammar rules created by the native speakers are the correct and the variations are incorrect, whereas descriptive grammar takes the principle that the language usage can vary according to varied speakers. Thus, it does not consider what is correct or incorrect grammar. Next difference is based on grammar rules. There are specified and standard set of grammar rules in prescriptive grammar that should be followed by the speaker in their usage. On the contrary, the rules are made according to the daily usage of the language by the speakers. Therefore, no specific or standard rules are there in descriptive grammar. Rather, the rules describe and explain the speaker's manner of language usage. Lastly, prescriptive grammar attempts to impose certain normative grammar rules on the speakers in order to reach the accepted standard of that language, while descriptive grammar is a subjective study of the use of language by speakers. In this lecture, we have seen the difference between prescriptive grammar and descriptive grammar. Do the given exercise and submit on time. Thank you.